Demekonnen says Ethiopia has no room for any racial discrimination. Libyan rivals hold new round of talks in Morocco. Hello and welcome to this news hour. I'm Daniel Kasahun with the news. The Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister of Ethiopia, Demekonnen, reiterates government's determination and enduring actions for all citizens to live in coexistence without discrimination. He highlights Ethiopia has no room where one group dominates the other to affect the coherence of citizens. Demekonnen made his remarks during his visit to over 174,000 displaced people sheltered in Metakel zone. Let's have the details. In recent times, western region of Ethiopia has witnessed lots of ethnically motivated massacres of the Amharas, Oromos and Shinashas. So far, the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who visited the area, warned of stern measures against the perpetrators. However, the atrocities couldn't be contained. Many more displacements and deaths have become daily realities. The catastrophes in Metakel zone is the case in point. Paying official visit to the displaced persons, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister of Ethiopia, Demekonnen, reiterates government's determination and enduring actions for all citizens live in coexistence and no discrimination.
አንድን ማህበረሰብ ከአንድ አካባቢ አጽድቶ ሌላው በተለየ የሚኖርበት
Ethiopia has no room where one group cleans the other and lives alone. The situation of Ethiopia, its past experience, traditions don't allow one dominates the other to affect the coherence of citizens. We must ensure this reality. You shouldn't expect everything from top officials. We all together need to fight it in a coordinated manner. Your endurance and cooperation would bring changes in the right direction. No nation benefits from all the atrocities happened so far. It does not benefit the people in Benishangul Gumuz or the Amhara or other groups. All is disaster.
At least 174,000 people have fled their homes and sheltered in two camps after gunmen massacred more than hundreds of residents. The displaced persons told the visiting team the extent of their disappointment, saying whether the government does exist or not. If so, they are urging for swift reaction to save their lives from armed groups and from the hunger they are facing. Minister of Revenues of Ethiopia, Laka Yale, for his part indicated, the support from the government to the displaced persons need to be channeled in a coordinated manner.
We
need to identify those really need daily support. All things have to be done in a coordinated manner. With the Ministry of Revenues has brought to you fortified meals for infants and their mothers, as they have to be treated first. You know who deserves what. You need to support this endeavor.
In the discussion with the displaced persons, Lieutenant General Asra Denero, for his part, indicated the resettlement and law operations in the affected areas are bearing fruits.
We have come to know which localities and spots are affected and how the armed groups are operating, so that we are able to take corrective measures accordingly. We have identified the problems and responded well, and changes are being witnessed. We are able to resettle over 7,000 displaced persons from the Gumo society. This gives good lesson to the other fellow citizens not to lose hope, because opportunities are there to regain their wealth, dignity and social assets. Taking measures against the failed administration is also part of the operation.
Some of the displaced were being sheltered at a makeshift camp in Danabalas, district of Benishangul Gumuz, while others took shelter at a camp in the Awi zone of the Amhara region. Judicial bodies have discussed the draft regulation on procedure and evidence for the adjudication of election-related complaints. Presidents of the federal and regional courts and judges drawn from various courts participated on the discussion that focused on the newly introduced regulation for adjudication of election matters. The legal document is introduced to make the upcoming national election free, fair, and democratic. Any citizen who has complaints regarding ban of registration or registration of any eligible individual can bring their complaints to the grievance hearing committees of constituencies according to the draft regulation. The complainant is eligible to bring the complaint to a court if he or she doesn't get a remedy within 5 days. With regard to complaints on voters' registration, courts are said to investigate plaintiffs and defendants within 10 days and grant judgment, and courts have to investigate and grant judgment accordingly on issues related to candidates' registration. This is according to the draft regulation. The Ministry of Urban Development and Construction says a coordinated approach is crucial among cities to implement plans. The ministry organized a panel discussion on regional special study that will be implemented in Ethiopia for the next 20 or 40 years. Goshmal Swazmore.
The consultative forum was held on promising regional spatial plan that is expected to solve existing urban planning gaps. State Minister of Urban Development and Construction Fantadajan said on the occasion that an effective plan is important to sustain the rapid growth of cities.
Most of Ethiopian towns are expanding without having plan. Farmers are increasingly settling in suburban areas of towns where they get services. Demand for urbanization is increasing from time to time across the nation. Therefore, our towns should be led by effective master plan.
Cities are highly expected to implement a coordinated approach to make the plan happen.
If these special plans are supported by technology and experts, we will achieve short, middle, and long-term plans. In this process, cities and towns need to prioritize coordination approach to realize the intended plan.
UN Habitat Project, which is working jointly with the Ministry of Urban Development and Construction, said the regional spatial plan will be helpful to narrow the existing gap of urban planning.
When towns are expanding in one area, they do not consider the negative impacts in that area. The new plan considers integration of rural to urban and economic ties without harming one another. It also takes into account resources, environment, and social values. So, the new spatial plan helps bridge the gap that has been seen in the previous urban planning.
Amhara, Afar, and Benshangul Gumuz regional states took part in the first regional spatial planning.
Matters is a conversation platform which aims to provide reasoned analysis and context to the activities, reforms, and policies of the federal government of Ethiopia. Exploring various reforms the government is undertaking, the conversation platform aspires to enable nuanced and informed understanding.
Do we have what it takes to transition into a digital economy? What would you say are some of the initiatives the government has taken so that we're not left behind and that we are actually transitioning or transforming into a digital economy?
So for us as a country, moving to a digital economy and making ICT a priority sector, but also understanding the role that digital can have on our national priorities is a necessity, not only to have new sources of growth, but for survival.
How are institutions being empowered, be it at the Warada level, regional level, or federal level, to transform themselves to be digitally enabled institutions?
Mindset is important. We need to build a culture of innovation. We need to build a culture of experimentation. It's all about being able to work together. It's about coordination. It's about collaboration. It's really important to be able to break those silences because we need to have data flowing.
Of course, policy matters. Patron of the Ethiopian Professors' Council, President Salor Zode urges Ethiopian professors to use their knowledge and potential for national development. Speaking on the second Ethiopian Professors' Council Forum, members of the council expressed their willingness to discharge their responsibility on the country's developmental endeavors. For more of the details, Haptam Shagre.
Ethiopian Professors Council aims to amplify professors' integrated role in the national development programs. Speaking in a virtual message on the second session of Ethiopian Professors Council, President Sahle-Work Zewde urged Ethiopian professors to maximize their efforts in the areas of research, community, and other advisory services.
መንግስት የሀገር በቀል የኢኮኖሚ ሪፎርምን በመቅረጽ የእድገት ጉዞን በመንደፍ እንዲሁም
The government has been implementing a homegrown economic strategy in various sectors. We're also adopting the 10-year Ethiopia's perspective plan, which will enable the country's high growth trajectory and position Ethiopia as an African beacon of prosperity through prioritizing some economic sectors. Therefore, you have to utilize your knowledge and skills through conducting research as well as putting other alternative ideas in a bid to bring scientific clarifications to realize inclusive development in the country. It's also expected that you can elaborate and disseminate accurate information to promote the nation's potential in different development programs. Improving such kind of activities is needed for all-round developments of our country.
በሀገራችን በየዘርፉ መዳበር አለበት።
Minister of Science and Higher Education Samuel Urkato on his part said the ministry has been working to utilize knowledge and skill of scholars for the benefits of the people and the country.
በቀጣይ የእድገትና የልማት ጉዟችን ከናንተ ከምሁራኖቻችን ጋር እየተመካከርን
We are ready to discuss with Ethiopian scholars to enhance the participation of scholars on the development programs of the nation through alleviating problems in the future. The Ministry of Science and Higher Education has been undertaking various policy and strategies to actively engage on Ethiopia's 10-year perspective plan along with other institutions. I call upon all Ethiopian professors to stand together for Ethiopia's development.
Various research papers are presented and discussed on the second Ethiopian Professors Council Forum. It was learned.
Welcome back. You are watching Addis News Hour. Ethiopian officials call for resolving border disputes with the Sudan in accordance with bilateral agreements and joint border mechanisms and said that the military escalation does not serve the path of peace. They noted that the Sudanese forces must restore the situation to what it was before the 8th of November in implementation of the understanding signed in 2005 between the two countries. Emmanuel Jorge presents Al Jazeera's file.
This is how the agricultural fields extend in the Amhara regional state which borders Sudan. There is nothing here indicating that war is feared to rage at the borders, about which Ethiopia says that its demarcation agreements in 1902 determined their points on maps only. The demarcation on the ground took place without the presence of the representative of Ethiopia. Because of that, the points are still in dispute, especially in the areas north of Mount Douglas, and it is the cause of suffering for the farmers here.
For more than 20 years, while I cultivated the border areas, sometimes simple skirmishes occur, but what happened in November, I had never seen anything like it. When the Sudanese army entered, and there were no Ethiopian forces at that time, only civilians, the army destroyed everything and caused displacement thousands and losses in the millions.
Officials in the region say that this attack is a blatant violation of the covenants signed between the two countries as the 1972. The 1972 agreement provides for the redemarcation process with the condition that the problems arising from the presence of farmers be settled amicably, while the 2005 agreement provides for the survival of the status quo as it is as the temporary solution until a final agreement is reached on the borders.
Confrontations that have taken place are not beneficial to the two countries. The two peoples in Amhara region and Sudan are neighbors by virtue of geographic reality, and resolving differences must be in accordance with bilateral agreements and joint border mechanisms. The Sudanese forces must withdraw and restore the situation to what it was before the 8th of November in implementation understandings in 2005.
Though still Sudanese armed forces have forcefully occupied Ethiopian sovereign lands, but Ethiopia is committed to solve the existing border dispute based on the 1972 agreement. Ethiopia has indicated that it wants the 1902 status quo to remain intact.
The Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, said the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases on the African continent has exceeded 3.4 million. According to the CDC data, the death toll related to the pandemic in Africa goes beyond 3,900. The agency added a total of 2.86 million people infected with COVID-19 have so far recovered across the continent. South Africa is the hardest hit in Africa in terms of the number of confirmed cases, followed by the Northern Africa region. The most affected African countries include South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, and Ethiopia, data showed. South Africa is the most affected African nation in terms of COVID-19 infection deaths, with more than 40,000 fatalities so far. The Libyan government National Accord has said talks with opposition party would center on appointments to the country's key institutions, already the focus of previous talks in Morocco in recent months, such as the Electoral Commission, the Central Bank, and the Anti-Corruption Commission. Kasan Chane presents more of the story from Africa News.
Representatives of rival Libyan camps on Friday began talks in Morocco, an AFP reporter said, as part of ongoing efforts to bring an end to namely the Kiev conflict. Oil-rich Libya has been driven by civil war since the NATO-backed president ousted long-time dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. The United Nations recognized the government of National Accord JNA is based in the capital, while the House of Representatives, which does not recognize the Tripoli Tripoli administration is based in the east. A fragile ceasefire between the two sides agreed in Geneva last October has largely held despite threats by Eastern military strongman Khalifa Haftar to resume fighting. The meeting in the Moroccan coastal town of Bonzinka, south of the capital Rabat, brings together certain representatives from the Tobruk-based House of Representatives and certain from the Tripoli-based High Council of State, which advises the GNA.
The meeting was excellent. There is an agreement among all on the need to change the cabinet positions in the short term. Tomorrow, if God willing, we will achieve our goal of agreeing on all the criteria, mechanisms, and time to present applications and acceptance of applications to be validated by the 1313 Commission and refer everything to those two commissions.
The GNA has said the talks would center on appointments to the country's key institutions, already the focus of previous talks in Morocco in recent months, such as the Electoral Commission, the Central Bank, and the Anti-Corruption Commission. Libyan envoys at United Nations-backed talks in Egypt agreed Wednesday to hold a constitutional referendum before elections planned for December 24. At separate talks in Geneva early this week, Libyan representatives voted to pass a mechanism to choose an interim executive to govern until the December polls.